Hello, Year 11, and welcome back to our study of the decline and fall of the Romanovs. Today we're looking specifically at the dot point, the growth of opposition to the Romanovs, and then within that, this video is going to be looking at the Russo Japanese War. So this war started in early 1904 and then ended about mid 1905. I think we can all guess who was involved in the war, the Russian Empire and the Japanese. So let's start by looking at why this war started. So Russia needed to close its Pacific Ocean port called Vladivostok, which was part of Russia, due to poor weather. So they needed a warm water port in the Pacific Ocean, both for trade and for naval growth. Remember that during this time, Britain and Germany were having the naval arms race. So the Japanese were concerned about the Russian influence in this region because Japan was trying to grow, they were becoming a bigger power, and Russia was coming in and influencing them. And Russia had a history of military aggression, being such a large country with such a strong population. Japan sought a deal with Russia to give Russia access to Manchuria and give Japan access to Korea. However, Tsar Nicholas declined this. He thought it was beneath him to negotiate with an Asian empire. So, the outbreak of war. This started when the Japanese staged a surprise attack on the Russian Navy at Port Arthur on February the 8th, 1904. Russia was genuinely surprised by this attack because they did not think that Japan had the strength to attack them. And also at this time, for an Asian nation to attack a European nation took quite a lot of bravery. And so the Russians were very surprised when this happened. So if we just take a look at this map, you can see Port Arthur there mapped with an X on the left-hand side. So this is where Russia had a naval base there, and this is where the Japanese attacked. You can see it's fairly close to the Pacific Ocean. Where you see Mongolia and Manchuria, Russia is just north of that. And you can see Siberia there, that's actually part of Russia, and Vladivostok, that's the port that they needed to close due to the bad weather. So this is the general region that's happened. So obviously Japan has somewhat of an advantage just due to their general vicinity to Port Arthur. So now we come to the main action of the war. So by late 1904, the Japanese Navy had sunk every single ship in Russia's Pacific Fleet. Russia's Baltic Fleet decided they needed to come and help out, but they did not arrive until May 1904. That was over 12 months since the first attack in 1904. When the Russians arrived in the Japanese water space, this is the battle in the Sea of Japan. The Japanese came and sunk all of their ships bar 3. So there was 8 battleships lost and 5,000 men lost, and only 3 of the Russian ships made it to their destination. After this embarrassing loss and a loss of 5,000 men, the Russians sought peace. So, after the battle in the Sea of Japan, the Russians sought peace, and this was in the Treaty of Portsmouth, which President Roosevelt negotiated between the Japanese leader and Tsar Nicholas. Of course, having to negotiate with an Asian power and having a US president as a mediator was quite embarrassing for Russia. This was the first time that a European power had lost to an Asian nation in modern times. And if we look at that source on the side, this is a foreign postcard from the time, and it just makes you see that really the world was looking at this issue and they were seeing that Japan was doing much better than Russia in this. It makes Russia look like a bit silly, they don't know what they're doing, it just makes them look inferior. So, in class, we're going to be looking more on the Treaty of Portsmouth, and we're going to be looking at the clauses and how this really impacted Russia on the ground. But before you come to class, I want you to take a look at this source. So this is a primary source from 1905, and it was published by an American newspaper. So I want you to answer these 4 questions. What type of source is this? Is this primary or secondary? How are the figures portrayed? So who do you think these 3 figures are, and how are they portrayed? And then what is the message of this source, and what is the purpose of this source? So when you're looking at the message and the purpose of the source, think about who created this source, when was it created, what perspective has it been created from. These are all important when we're looking at this source. And then come to class with these answers, and then we'll discuss them further. So once you finish those 4 questions on the source analysis, make sure you either write them in your laptops or in your books. because we'll be discussing them in class. Then you should read the Bloody Sunday reading, which is chapters 4 and 5 of the Ruling Russia textbook. These are uploaded to Google Classroom in the Romanovs reading folder, so if you go on there, you should find it. So when reading this, I want you to highlight using 3 different colors and highlight political, social, and economic grievances that led to the opposition. So this is coming on from our lesson last week where we looked at the political, social, and economic grievances. So I want you to identify the different factors and what type of grievance they are. And then we're going to be looking at this a little bit more in detail. Then we're going to be studying Bloody Sunday in detail as well. So then you'll be all done, and then I'll see you in class later this week.